Well, howdy doody doody to you, geographers. Today we're going to talk about environmental resources. So I've got some learning goals for you. You're going to know why we need resources, what resources are, and be able to interpret maps. There's going to be a whole heap of maps here, and we're going to discuss them all in turn, and you're going to get better at interpreting them. And you're going to be able to classify resources. So the activity that you're going to do towards the end of the video is I'm going to give you a whole heap of resources and you've got to decide which category they go into. And you'll see what that means in a second. Okay, why resources? Why do we need resources? Very simple answer. We need environmental resources to survive. For example, water to drink, food to eat. We need forests to cut down to use the wood for our houses and so on. Now, don't have to write down any of this stuff in red, but just have a think about the resources that you personally use in a day, right? What kind of food do you eat? If you eat meat, then there must be some land put aside for where those cows, pigs, sheep, horses, if you eat horses, where they're going to live. How much land is required to grow the crops? How is it, we need to build roads to drive that food to the supermarket where you and your parents go and buy it. We need to have airports so that food grown overseas can be flown to Australia for you to eat. There's quite a lot of resources just on food when you think about it. What about housing? The concrete required for your house, the bricks required for your house, the glass, the tiles on the roof, all of the electrical cables, all of that stuff. Housing is very complex and requires a whole heap of different resources, not just wood, but concrete, stones, bricks, electrical cables, plastic, which is made from oil. Heaps of resources needed for housing. What kind of transport? How do you get to school on a normal day? How is that car made? Where are the materials gathered to build the road that the car even goes on? Every single one of these things requires a heap of resources. And entertainment. So, for example, maybe you're watching a great show on Netflix. Where are the resources that are required to get that entertainment to your house? We need to have satellites in space orbiting the Earth to send the Netflix signal from the server in the US to your house. So what resources are required to build the satellite in the first place? Again, that's more metal, that's petroleum dug out of the ground to send that satellite into orbit. Huge amount of resources, even just for your daily stuff that you do. So there you go. Here's a cool little diagram showing what different resources that we use and what they're using for. So water we use for energy. We can create electricity from water through hydroelectric plants where we have turbines running from water flowing through them. Oil, which is buried deep underground, that's turned into petrol for your cars. Oil is also what's used to make all the plastic. Have a look around the room you're in and think about where you'd be without plastic. Almost everything is plastic these days. Forests provide heaps of stuff. Rocks provide heaps of stuff. Minerals, that's where we get our glass from. Obviously, the soil helps for agriculture, and the animals on top of the surface of the earth for food and clothing, stuff like that. Okay, I just want you to copy this diagram down. You don't need to write the examples if you don't want, but you do need to write the main headings and that bit there in total and that bit there in total. For here, you can just write constant supply, and supply can be affected by human activity if you like, because you're going to do a little activity where you classify that stuff yourself anyway. So, environmental resources can be split into non-renewable and renewable. The non-renewable stuff takes millions of years to be replaced, so we call it non-renewable, right? Because we're not going to be around for millions of years, so that's not relevant to us. So which non-renewable things are consumed by us using them? All of our fossil fuels, so that's all the petrol, the oil, natural gas, coal, all that stuff. Once we use it, it's gone. It takes millions of years to be replaced, and we're not going to be around then, so we call that non-renewable. But then we've got the non-renewable stuff that can be recycled. So if you use an aluminium can, you put it in your recycling bin, they can melt that down and make it into another aluminium can. So it's non-renewable, but it's recyclable. So we can limit the amount that we use by recycling what we do use. On the other hand, we've got renewable. So this is replaced over a short period of time. And we've got two types of renewable. We've got a constant supply stuff, and that's most of just the straight up nature. So the sun, the tides, the waves, water, air, constant supply of that. And then the other renewable stuff, its supply can be affected by human activities. So fish are renewable, but we hunt them. Forests, they're renewable, but we cut them down. Soil, it's renewable, but we degrade it by over farming. Water is renewable, but we can pollute it. And underground water is renewable, but if we use it quicker than it replenishes, then it might not be renewed. And they are the four types of environmental resources: non-renewable consumed by use, non-renewable recyclable, renewable constant supply, renewable supply affected by humans. Copy that diagram down. Here's a lovely little, I just love these little block diagrams. Here's examples of some different resources with cute little artwork. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the global supply of resources just quickly. So the supply of, when we say supply of resources, we mean like where in the world all the minerals and the gold and the oil and the iron, where is that found? So the global supply of all these resources depends on geology, i.e. what's going on underground, and climate. Humans can affect the global supply of resources, obviously how much oil and stuff like that we use. The primary industries in particular, maybe this has probably never been told to you before, but we talk about different types of industries. Primary industries are the things that extract stuff from nature. Secondary industries are the industries that turn the primary stuff into products, so like factories. And tertiary industries, that's like service sector, so like doctors, nurses, teachers. Yeah? Primary industries are stuff like farmers, miners, fishers. Secondary industries is like manufacturing and factories, making of stuff. Tertiary industries are service sectors. Most of the industries that you think of in the cities are all tertiary industries because they're service sector. Doctors, nurses, librarians, Uber drivers, retail workers, teachers, all of that stuff. Anyway, so the primary industries affect the global supply of resources because they extract things out of the environment. For example, farmers extract plants and animals, and that uses up some of the topsoil. Fishers take fish out of the sea for you to eat. Loggers cut down trees, and that can be done either in a renewable way if they replant the forest, or a non-renewable way if they don't replant the forest, if they just leave it there bare. And mining, that's a big one in Australia. So humans go in and dig deep underground and find uranium for nuclear power. They find iron ore to make steel. They find precious gems, diamonds, gold, all that sort of carry on. Here is a map showing the land use on Earth, and you can see there where all the forests are. They're a big band along the middle. Yeah, so we've got the Amazon rainforest, we've got the Central African rainforests, and we've got the Southeast Asian rainforest with a little bit of rainforest around the outside there. Actually, this is just forest in general, not just not just rainforests. So there you go. Cool map. This here is another map, so that we're doing some map interpretation, yeah? So think first up, what's this map missing? Border, yes, missing that. Orientation, missing that. Legend, it's got a legend. Title, no scale, no source. So it's really only got a legend. Would be helpful to have a title, wouldn't it? Because then it would tell us what this map is about. This map is about aquifers. Aquifers are underground water sources. Yeah. So that shows you where they are. And different colours tell you what the different areas mean. This here is showing where the oil is. So This is billion barrels. Yeah, billions of barrels. So you have a look at which countries have got the most oil. Saudi Arabia, heaps of oil. Venezuela, heaps of oil. Mexico, lots of oil. Canada, lots of oil. Russia, lots of oil. US has got a certain amount of oil, and then there's some other countries in the Middle East. You know, the biggest one area where fossil fuels and oil is found is in the Middle East. So what does the rest of the world do? They have to buy all of the oil from the people in the Middle East. So Australia buys oil, you know, everyone is buying oil from the people who have got it. And that puts them in a very strong position. A lot of those Middle Eastern countries are very rich because of all of the oil that they have underground. This one here is showing the quality of soil for farming. So the best soils for farming are shown in, this is a very interesting graph. It's got a border, it doesn't have orientation, it's got a legend, it's got a title, it's got scale, and it does have a source, Washington DC 1998. There you go. So this is showing you all the different types of soils. All the stuff that's in white, very bad for farming, yeah. So like the center of Australia, not very good for farming. Northern Africa, not very good for farming. Why is it not good for farming here? There's a gigantic desert there. Yeah. So this is a thematic map, yeah, showing themes. The colors represent data. I'd probably need to know a bit more about what soil resilience is and soil performance is to be able to say much more meaningful stuff about that map. Right, the activity. You're going to classify these resources using the table. So draw that table, non-renewable, and the two subcategories are consumed by use and recyclable. On the other side, you've got renewable, and the two subcategories are constant supply. Supply can be affected by humans. If you need to go back and look at the table that you drew for some ideas, here are all of the resources that you need to classify. All those ones there. Oil, corn, coal, trees, wind, water, gold, iron, diamonds, animals, copper, fish, sunlight, aluminium, soil. Which of those four categories do they go under? So draw that table, leave quite a few lines underneath it. And that's your activity for today. Because I love Crash Course Kids, here's a video called Resources. Welcome to the neighborhood.
You've probably noticed by now, in your years of being a human, that human beings need a lot of stuff to live. Food, water, shelter, YouTube, well, maybe not that last one. So where does all of this stuff come from? Why, it comes from our very own Earth. We live on a planet that has all of the stuff we need to survive. There's fresh water to drink, fruit on trees, and wood to build our houses. Convenient, right? We call this stuff resources. Because humans need so many of these resources to live, it's easier for us to form communities, like cities or neighborhoods, where these resources are plentiful, so we don't have to travel long distances to find them on our own. That's why you don't normally see big cities in the middle of deserts, where there's no water, or at the top of freezing mountains, where there's no food. Think about your own town and where it's located. If it's close to things like water and agriculture, that was probably no accident. Humans and other animals tend to thrive in places that are near the resources they need to survive. Of course, the stuff we need to live doesn't come ready to use right out of the earth. Although I would personally love it if there were, say, a lake full of pure hot fudge. But in order for us to use the resources around us, we have to transform them first. Because I'm kinda hungry right now, let's use food as an example. In fact, let's make a cake. Think about all the ingredients that you need to put together in order to bake one of these delicious treats. Let's start with some water. The water that comes out of your kitchen faucet most likely came from rivers and lakes around your town. But before the water is safe to drink, it has to be cleaned and stored in places like reservoirs and water towers. Okay, what next? Flour, eggs, sugar, and milk. These ingredients, and a lot of the other foods that we eat, have to be cultivated, which means grown on farms, before they can be shipped to grocery stores. In order to do this, farms have to be where crops and livestock can live and grow. Alright, now we need to mix these ingredients all together. That means that our electric mixer needs power. The energy we use to power all of our gizmos can come from a lot of different places. Sometimes it comes from materials that we have to dig underground to find, like oil and natural gas. Some houses get their energy from the sun or by wind. Some towns that are close to large dams can even get their energy from moving water. But more on that later. Now, how do we bake this bad boy? The same kinds of energy that powered our mixer also help do things like heat our homes and cook our food. So from start to finish, everything we use to make our cake came from the transformation of the resources around us. The effect the natural world has on our lives is immense, and something as simple as baking a cake shows that we wouldn't be able to live the way we do without the abundance of natural resources on our planet. And it doesn't hurt that the end result of those resources can be a cake.
And your reflection activity for today. So write down the words reflection activity really quickly. I'm going to do a PMI on resources. That means I want you to come up with one sentence that's a plus. What's a positive about resources? An M, what's a minus about resources? And an I, just something that you found interesting about resources. So complete those 3 sentences. Reflection activity, resources, plus, blah, 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 minus, blah, 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 interesting, blah, blah, blah. And take a photo of that. Put it in your exercise book, write it in your exercise book, take a photo of what you've done, upload that, and that's all you need to do for today. Thank you so much for participating. Keep it real.